You are prepared. What would we do without the damn iPhone? Hey, there we go.
Thank you.
So much.
Council Chair April Lopez wasn't able to attend today, and she deeply regrets that she wasn't able to attend, and thanks you for allowing me to represent the council here.
Good to see you.
You asked about the communication and collaborative process that exists between the developmental center management and consumer advocates throughout the process of transition. The State Council contracts with DDS to provide individuals residing in developmental centers with a personal volunteer advocate. This is typically for people without family who are involved. The volunteer advocate participates in all stages of the transition, from the initial planning meeting to the review meeting when setting the date for placement in the community. I also employ a client's rights advocate, which my colleague from DRC just spoke about. We have one of those in each of the centers. The DDS Regional Resource Development Project, or the RRDP, that's the one that manages the community transition activity at the developmental center. The DDRP collaborates with my volunteer advocacy coordinator and my client's rights advocates in the regional centers on the planning. The Regional Resource Developmental Project develops a calendar of transition meetings and events for each consumer in the transition, and that calendar is shared with my advocacy staff. Good, strong, clear, continuous communication among all of the participants of the interdisciplinary team is key to preventing the escalation of needs and services as we go on. Needs can be identified and addressed really early on in early stages when all members receive timely, accurate information. In the developmental center, the service team is physically closer to each other than they are out in the community, which increases the need for the communication to be stronger once individuals are out in the community. One suggestion for improvement is that the volunteer advocates could serve more individuals transitioning out of the DC. Currently, volunteer advocates serve only those individuals without families that are involved, or if the families request involvement. One option, a different option, is to have the volunteer advocates involved with every single individual within the DC. You also asked for me to describe the role of the consumer advocates in the individual transition process for residents and how that might be improved. Our volunteer advocates participate in all stages of the community transition for the person. The volunteer advocate attends the IPP meetings where community placement is initially discussed to the final transition review meeting. Volunteer advocates tour potential homes to assure that the home is accessible and suitable for the individual. Advocates try to determine if the person is a fit with the other people who live in that residence. The advocates inform the Regional Resource Development Project and interdisciplinary teams, including the regional center case manager, of any issues, barriers, concerns regarding potential placement. You asked to describe the role that consumer advocates have played after a resident moved out into the community. I want to make sure that you know that our volunteer advocates follow that person transitioning out of the community for 12 months after placement. Continued collaboration and communication with the regional center and the RRDP back at the DC. That continues throughout the 12-month period to assess and monitor the person leaving the developmental center. That's generous. By my clock, I only have a minute and a half. Finally, you asked, how should the lessons learned from previous closures be incorporated into future closures? And the senators have been very good to highlight and focus on what's most critical out in the community, the availability of housing, the availability of services. So I'll highlight for you other items. Three come to mind specifically: record keeping, hands-on experience, and communication. Record keeping. As developmental centers close, consistent staff that are familiar with the people who've lived there become scarce, as we've talked about. There must be good record keeping. For example, a record of negative drug reactions will prevent unnecessary drug trial and errors in the future once out in the community. Hands-on experience. In prior closures, residents were provided training about the types of community residential and vocational options that exist out in the community. Giving the person the option to initially pick the type of residential housing, it's important for successful transition. Touring potential community homes and day programming sites allows that hands-on experience. Finally, key aspect, communication. Said it before, I'll reiterate it again. Continued communication between the volunteer advocate, the Regional Resource Development Project, and the regional center, and the community residential home and day programs, and paramount key to successful transitioning beyond the initial placement. Thank you very much.
Great feedback. We're going to have some questions after we're done with the panel.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's good to see you. We're now going to be going to Debbie Batterson. She's a former Sonoma Developmental Center resident. She will share a PowerPoint presentation about her life. And we are told she is so proud of her story. Sarah Burgett of Toolworks is going to be supporting us today, and we're grateful that Ms. Batterson is going to be providing some sign language. Welcome. It's good to see you.
I'm sorry, this process is a little challenging, trying to figure out where to sit and stand and interpret.
It's all good.
Okay, I'm gonna voice and facilitate for Debbie. And I'm sorry, this is gonna be slower because it's hard to talk and sign at the same time.
No worries.
Okay. Again, sorry. Can you start again? My name is Debbie Batterson, and that's my roommate, Kim. And we're at the top of San Francisco. Okay, now we're moving. What is, next? You ready? Next. What is that? What is that? You moved. Where? SDC. You moved, right? You lived there for 27 years. Right? Did you enjoy living SDC? SDC? Like? Okay. Next picture. Oh, Doreen's helping. Okay. What are you doing now that you've moved to Fremont? What kinds of activities are you doing? I'm doing gardening. What else? I have the gardening, and that's it. What is that? More gardening. Yeah. Who's that? Who's that? That's me, Debbie. Yes. So this is your community integrated day program, right?
Wow.
Okay. Next. What's happening? What's happening? I went on a walk. I did a 5K run on my first anniversary of living out in the community. What else is happening? What are you doing? Yeah, it's your group. Bowling. Okay, yeah, that's right. That's a certificate from walking, yeah. Your certificate. Okay, in San Francisco. Okay, ready? Ready for the next one? Okay. What's happening here? Those are your friends. All of your deaf friends, right?
Wow.
Because you live in a deaf community now.
Wow.
Yeah? You're taking the BART, and you're singing your roommate happy birthday, right? Yeah, happy birthday to Kim. Happy birthday to you, yeah. Okay. What are you doing here? Oh, I'm chopping vegetables, I'm out on a hike. Yeah, I'm doing art. What are you doing? Are you cooking? Yeah? That's your job? Is that your job? All right. What are you doing there? I'm doing more art. Yep, art. The colors, yeah. Oh, is that Kim? That's your roommate. She's getting her nails done. Okay, next. Who's that? Those are my grandparents. My grandfather and my grandmother, my grandfather passed away. They live close to you, right? Yeah, in Fremont. What's happening there?
Mama.
That's me and my mom. My brother. my brother's friend. Oh, son, brother's son. And my sister. And my staff person, Barrage. We all... You visited Las Vegas, right? When you were living at SDC, you were not allowed to go and visit your mother, and she was having some health issues. But one of the first things you did when you moved into supported living is that your staff went with you to Las Vegas so that you could visit your mother. You had not visited her in a long time, is that right? Yes.
Right.
Okay. What else? And that's Alex, spelling out Alex. Okay. You ready for the next one? And this is your apartment in Fremont, right? What are you doing in that picture? That is the video phone. Who are you talking to? Who? Who are you talking to? Do you know who? Oh, I'm making a phone call to my mom. This is how people who are deaf communicate, right? We make phone calls on the video phone, right? Full interpret. Yes. And then what? Look at all the new technology you have living independently. You have a computer? Yeah. iPad. You're all set up, right? Fully connected. Okay. It's your iPad. Yep. Okay, next.
We have about 2 minutes.
Okay. Who wrote that? You wrote that. When Debbie moved, I'd say within 2 months, at Toolworks, we received this card from Debbie. And for those who can't see that card, it says, "Thank you for giving me a new life." And she had written it to a bunch of us here to express your appreciation of your new life, right? Because it is a life now,
Yeah.
right?
Bye.
Right. Okay. Is that it?
Yay.
All right.
Nice. Yay.
We finished on...
Give Debbie a round of applause. Debbie did a great job. Thank you so much. We are so grateful that you are here. Wonderful job. You have the best presentation of the day, so we're really grateful. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be advancing to talk with Diana Pastora Carson. She's a family member of a former Fairview Developmental Center resident. She's going to be talking about her experience when her family member was moved out of Fairview Developmental Center. So welcome, and we're happy that you're here. It's good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be here. I'm humbled to be here amongst people who have taken this global approach to how to include people in the community. I have but one story to share, our family-centric perspective, and I hope that it will give you a little bit of assurance that you're doing the right thing. My name is Diana Pastora Carson. My brother is Joaquin Thomas Carson. He is a 47-year-old man who lived at Fairview twice in his life, once for 8 years, once for 7 years, with an 8-year group home stay in the middle of that. Joaquin experiences autism, epilepsy, high anxiety, and significant behaviors that are extremely challenging in the community. Each time Joaquin entered Fairview, it was a result, I believe, of our community's ill-preparedness to deal with his specialized needs. We needed accommodating environments and supports, which I believe at that time did not exist. In the interim of him being where he was, some community support started to develop. I once believed that Joaquin could only be supported in an environment such as a developmental center. But after much exploration into current and developing alternatives, I realized that I was mistaken. I also discovered that the community was not yet prepared for Joaquin until I and his team prepared the community. This was work, but it was so worth it, as evidenced by my brother's life quality now compared to 5 years ago. I believe these were handed out, some talking points. Prior to coming to the community 4.5 years ago, Joaquin had 2 to 17 support ratio at Fairview. His family was 2 hours away. He had weekly family visits, no other outside contact, poor nutrition, irregular bowel movements, seizures from constipation. Sheltered workshop on the institution grounds was boring and meaningless. He had unexplained bruises, bite marks, and scratches constantly. He was labeled a danger to himself and others. He had fractured vertebra from restraints. He had no preferred activities, no educational activities, no communication support. It was a human warehouse, in my opinion, that he existed in day to day, a loud, smelly, and impersonal environment, and that is no disrespect to the residents who were there or even the staff who worked there, because I think it's next to impossible to have life quality in an institutional setting. He wore other people's clothes and shoes. He was unable to be showered when he needed to be showered. His environment was unsanitary. He was unsanitary. He was completely segregated. Now he's in the community with 2-to-1 support staff. His staff are trained specifically to meet Joaquin's needs. One of his doctors deemed us Joaquinologists. His family lives next door. Joaquin is my neighbor now. I visit him daily. He has constant contact with neighbors and friends. He has a specialized diet to address his gut issues and seizures. He works daily in public parks picking up trash. He walks daily in the community. He rides bikes in the community. He attends community barbecues. And his last birthday, there were 2 fire trucks parked outside of his home with a fire department there to celebrate his birthday with him.
About 2 minutes.
Yes, thank you. He attends San Diego State University each Wednesday. It's a class with 400 students. This is a man who is a danger to himself and others. Reading and watching documentaries about civil rights, history, and science are common occurrences with his staff. He's learning to communicate his feelings and thoughts through typing. He is given choices and even honored for the choices that he makes. He has a personalized home constructed to meet his personal needs. It is Joaquin-proof. He chooses to wear his own and wears his own clothes and shoes. He showers anytime he needs. He is embraced rather than segregated. And Joaquin got to be with our mother during the last years of her life and see her regularly. And he was able to be by her bedside when she died. And he was able to mourn, and that is something that could not have been done when he was 2 hours away at Fairview. So,
We're going to have you conclude in about 30 seconds.
okay. I want to acknowledge the families advocating against the closure. I understand your fears completely. I also know that our fears are founded in a past where we had to fight for every bit of support and assurance that our loved ones would be well. I've dealt with the healthcare system, law enforcement, and regional center system more times than I can care to count, all to get the help that my brother needs. It's exhausting, but with a team approach, it is possible. I urge, the possibilities can be realities. It will take people who truly know deeply the individuals and their needs coming together to collaborate and create. Please include in your plans to close DC's funding for complex cases as well as temporary crises. Community living is possible. It is the right thing to do. It needs to be done right, and that takes commitment and collaboration.
And thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing your personal story as well. We're grateful that you're here. Thank you, and thank you for your patience with us today, for hanging. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to be able to move on to Dorothy Diamond. She is a family member of a former Lanterman Developmental Center resident. She's going to be talking to us about what happened when her family member was moved out of the Lanterman Developmental Center. Ms. Diamond, the floor is yours. You have 5 minutes.
My name is Dorothy Diamond. I'm the co-president of the Parents Coordinating Council for the former families of Latterman Developmental Center. I'm a mother conservator of a Latterman resident who lived there for 30 years. Some of Michael's issues are respiratory, suprapubic catheter. Whole person assessment evaluation stated there wasn't a place in the community to handle Michael's medical needs. LDC said to find a place because all good homes would be taken. I learned from others who moved without necessary needs in place. All parents cannot take on that challenge. Some told PCC they didn't have the knowledge, were intimidated easily or older, or were pushed to place when they didn't really agree. Transition planning moved too fast. Communication between parent, conservator, regional center, and service providers is critical. lacking at LC closure, too much overtime used, invest this funding upfront as incentives for critical staff to stay until closure while keeping a position open at another state job. Crucial to provide all medical services, had to push for some services for Michael. Not enough staff to take clients outside. Security on campus should be priority. Outpatient clinic underutilized, lacking for early movers. Medical services lacking. Disconnect between DDS, RCs, and SPs. Funding seemed to be an issue. Michael had 2 providers to choose from. Only one was qualified to give services needed. RC should make sure families are in the same catchment area as the client prior to placement so families can be closer.
Ms. Diamond, I'm going to have you pull the mic just a little closer. I apologize about interrupting.
It's distressing to say that the parents' conservators have to take the initiative to make sure all needs are in place before moving. I feel Michael's IPP was very in-depth, describing all needs to be met. Placement took 2 years before everything in place, not enough staff, identifying doctors and to see Michael. Not all doctors want to take care of special needs patients. Prior to moving, the PCC feels strongly that it's essential for parents to contact and interview anyone that will attend to their loved one and meet them. I did it for the welfare of Michael to survive in the community with dignity. Some felt it wasn't necessary because they were transitioning others and knew better. Families have notified PCC that some clients still do not have day programs, dental, or specialized doctors. Some hospitals are not equipped to take care of our population because they don't have the time to deal with anyone that cannot communicate. All providers do not send staff along. They send packets of information. After moving, RC managed care insurance. The plan will not work with all doctors Michael is currently seeing. He's a Medi-Medi. A recommended doctor comment to me was he didn't care if Michael came to him or not because he wouldn't make any money by seeing him. Michael had to come on a certain day because he didn't want him in the lobby to inconvenience his other patients. He could not see Michael in a room because his wheelchair wouldn't fit, but could accommodate seeing him in the hallway. Extremely upsetting hearing such a heartless response. Hands-on cross-training wasn't allowed at LDC. At transitioning, I insisted that LDC staff stay for 48 hours to oversee new staff. Going further with closure, community staffing should have ability to have hands-on training. No LDC staff who knew him was being hired on as state staff by the provider. LDC state staff came late, was underfunded, and wasn't in line with Agnew's. RC should be encouraged to include the use of state staff in requests for proposal and should help with transition of state staff. So the PCC hears from some families, providers think that families are interfering with the way they think is best. Families have expressed dissatisfaction of time limitations when they want to visit. Staff turnover is an issue and equal or better didn't always happen. Our provider is willing to work to learn all of Michael's likes and dislikes. I'm made aware of any appointments or outings. I attend instead of hearing information secondhand. Some families say this isn't done. Living in the community is not always the least restrictive for a severely disabled client. They may do better in a small version of DC. Community environment is not as secure as a DC campus. At LDC, everyone attended day programs with their peers, functions that LDC provided, freedom of feeling safe to take walks around campus by ourselves, staff near to deal with anyone's needs, attended religious services.
You have 2 minutes, Ms. Diamond.
Michael is more restricted in the community because of weather. Outings are limited, sidewalks are not favorable, walks without staff. Day program is one-to-one and very seldom with other peers in his home. If peers are sick, no contact with them for days. Living at LDC has least restrictive when seen or doing activities with his peers. DDS stated that after the lessons learned LDC closure meeting in August, there would be meetings by the end of the year to inform legislators, RCs, providers, DCs, and parents of what was learned, and PCC could attend. We were notified in February that Southern RC's meeting will be in the end of February and March. It's important to be involved in the LDC lessons learned for all RC providers, DCs and families, and PCC in attendance, to be educated in the LDC families' issues and positive remarks. To ensure that all gaps in services are met before transiting, parents have to be very proactive and involved with their RCs, providers, and not solely relying on the transitioning team discretions. PCC recommends stopping movement into community until known gaps in services are filled. Clinics should be developed in the community with doctors and staff that know our population. Greater access needed in the community for durable medical equipment, adaptive technology, and other DC specialty services which utilize experienced expertise of the DC staff. Need more 962 homes, ICFDD nursing, ICFDD continuous nursing. Providers
30
need pay
seconds, Ms. Diamond.
equal to LDC staff higher than what is currently in homes. There's a need to ensure that the legal right to religious expression is met in the community. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
No, thank you so much, and I did not mean to interrupt you. I apologize.
That's fine.
I'm really happy you're here, and thank you for preparing those remarks, and it's good to see you. Thank you very much. And we'll open it up for questions here in just a bit. We are now honored that Rich Hardy is, what's that? Jera, I apologize, Jera, my goodness. She is a family member of a former Lanterman Developmental Center resident. She's going to be discussing her experience when moving her family member out of Lanterman Developmental Center and into the community. Thank you so much for taking the time. You have 5 minutes, ma'am. We're excited that you're here.
My pleasure, and actually, I'm going to be talking about lessons learned.
All right, hey, I like it.
That's
Thank
okay.
you.
In this defining moment, previous closures must inform those to follow, transferring experience and knowledge to correct flaws in design and execution. The state has reason to foresee issues reoccurring and to recognize that failure to address known risks now in an adequate and meaningful way is negligent and reckless. I believe that lessons from Agnew's DC experience have been forgotten and that lessons from Lanterman aren't fully understood. I'm going to share 3. Inequality in closure service delivery. Disadvantaged LDC residents did not enjoy the full benefit of essential closure provisions. Drawn from the Agnew's experience and included in the LDC plan, those included the Community State Staff Program, outpatient clinic services, published transition guidelines, and specialized residential models. Residents whose family advocates were advanced in age, had language barriers, or ill health were commonly the first to be transitioned to the community before those key service improvements were available. Unlike residents with families intellectually and economically able to navigate an exhausting and complicated process while defending their rights under the closure plan. I would guess as many as 50% of the Latterman clients were transitioned before all of the provisions were in place. That's my guess. The next point would be staff retention failures. Central to deteriorating care, risk to residents, and disadvantages in the transition process. Referencing Agnew's staffing shortages, DDS stated the need to ensure the circumstance does not repeat itself at Lanterman, but no remedy was put in place. Unit consolidations, layoff policies, and excessive mandated overtime were key contributing factors. Stopgap efforts, including hiring former DC staff, floating staff from unit to unit, and mandating excessive overtime only contributed to the unstable and chaotic environment. Lastly, the community state staff, a key element doomed to failure at LDC. Developed for Agnew's movers to provide continuity of care, it was considered the cornerstone of successful Agnew's transitions and was prominent in the LDC closure plan. But staff costs and established provider rates made it economically infeasible for most providers. Layoffs and unit consolidations excluded interested staff the opportunity to participate before union agreements could be put in place. Staff in charge of the program were not properly prepared, and only a handful of LDC staff was hired. If these lessons have been learned, mechanisms must be established in the Sonoma closure to ensure equal access to closure plan provisions for all of its residents, to retain familiar staff throughout closure, and to institute a viable community state staff program. Gaps in community care are acknowledged, and the intention of closure funding is to fill these gaps, but there is much the closure funding simply cannot do. I will give 2 examples. Dentists statewide need to be educated and learn effective methods of treatment, including offering general anesthesia for simple cleanings and treating clients in their specialized gurneys or wheelchairs. Offices must be configured to protect expensive equipment from destructive behaviors. Dentists and assistants need specialized training to approach and interact with the patients. Until the community embraces the needs of the developmentally disabled, dental care will remain widely unavailable outside of DCs. Behavioral supports. Group homes, public schools, and families may utilize local law enforcement as a safety net to respond to severe behavioral episodes. These agencies admit lack of adequate training and understanding of the DD. Untrained to de-escalate behaviors, officers use standard containment methods and then transport to available psych wards, emergency rooms, and jail or juvenile detention. Facilities not designed, equipped, or intended to care for the developmentally disabled become an integral piece of the behavior plan. Unable to control their behavioral impulses and with no understanding of legal consequences, DD continue to be incarcerated. Behaviorally challenged repeatedly fail and deteriorate as they bounce from group home to psych unit, victims of a system of care that refuses to accept their disability and honor their needs. In closing, I believe success must be defined. Are transitions to the community successful when dental services and behavioral supports are not available? Should a closure that denies equal opportunity for all movers be called a success? How many unnatural deaths occur in a successful DC closure?
You have 30 seconds.
And is incarceration an acceptable housing option for behaviorally challenged DD? Thank you.
Thank you so much. And again, I don't mean to interrupt you, so I really appreciate your patience with me as well. Great job to our entire panel. What I'd like to be able to do, if it works for everybody, is just hold for a second. I would like to be able to see if the senator has any questions or comments. I know I have some questions or comments, but please, we'll start with Senator Liu. Okay, thank you so much.